Now, more than ever, we need some truth. And I can definitely say that sometimes the funkiest grooves can be found in the church pews. So let's see what gems await in this Vinyl Me Please exclusive box set. Truth is Where It's At, a gospel truth collection. This is a collection of 6 LPs from a short-lived imprint from the legendary Stax Records called Gospel Truth. I love imprint labels, and I plan on doing a video on some of my favorites in the future. In the 1970s in Memphis, Stax wanted to, quote, bridge the gap between the street corner and the church pew, and the result are some amazing records that, if not for this box set, would surely be lost to time. Or maybe you would have seen some of these awesome labels in shops or record stores and thought it might have been something good. Well, it is. And we'll get into that and all the music in a minute. But first, Vinyl Me Please did reach out to me and send me this box set to review. But I speak the truth with this review. Seriously, I would not even take this set if it wasn't something that I was already considering buying. So know that this is an honest review, as any review will be on this channel, as you will see. So let's talk about this reissue box set from Vinyl Me Please and whether you should consider getting one. Now, this is not an official Vinyl Me Please anthology set. In fact, it just lists that it's an exclusive, but they are hand numbered, and this is VMP 170, so it goes in line with their normal exclusives. And they are limited to 1,000, and I would highly doubt that they're ever gonna actually repress this again, so you should probably strike while the iron's hot on these. Again, more on that later. What are we getting here? So even though this is not an official VMP anthology, it sure feels and looks like one. The box that this comes in is really nice with a great logo, and I really love the Gospel Truth logo. And the backside lists all the records and has a great layout. And here is the hand numbering. VMP exclusive, again, not anthology. We have the hype sticker listing all the facts. This is 6 AAA lacquer cut LPs from the original master tapes, mastered by Ryan K. Smith at Sterling Sound. Another guy that I'm starting to see his name all the time, and just buy his records if you see them. This has a nice listening notes book by Jared J.B. Boyd, who did a great interview talking about this set with @SoulDisco. Go check out that video. It's got a way more in-depth dive into the music and the background on all this. Such a great conversation. Great channel too. Go follow @SoulDisco. Lots of great soul and funk and disco recommends. These listening notebooks from Vinyl Me Please are really great. They really take the time to put great artwork in the pictures in them, as well as getting awesome people like JB, an expert in the field, to give a great write-up. I'm not familiar with these artists, and I've only ever heard of the Rance Allen Group, so having these books to guide you through and giving you context on these artists is just fantastic. Plus, it's fun to read while you're listening to the records also. Gives you something to do. The recreated covers here are very premium. Each one is a solid, thick, glossy tip-on jacket. I'm 100% sure if you did find originals of these, you would never find covers in this condition, or you would pay for an unopened copy. The vinyl here is an all 180 gram. These reissues are in partnership with Craft Recordings. You can see that on the label promos here. Craft has done so many great reissues that partner with Vinyl Me Please, so this is another great project for them to get together with on. You also get this great bumper sticker, which, come on, this is just very cool. Again, just like you would with any great full Vinyl Me Please anthology, they give you all these little extras. As I said, I've never listened to any of these pieces of vinyl prior to, or I've even heard of most of this music streaming or otherwise. The only group that I've ever heard of is the Rance Allen Group, so that's where I started with this set, and I had a feeling, based on this cover, that this was the funkiest of the bunch, and I was pretty much right. This is the Rance Allen Group, self-titled, originally released in 1972. This is the group's second album. Their first is called The Truth Is Where It's At, so it's odd to me that that was not chosen for this box set, but mostly of all these records, none of them have had a reissue before since 1972 or 73, and the group's first album did have a reissue in 1978, so maybe that's the reasoning, or just access to master tapes. This is definitely the most accessible record in the set, and one that is a true treasure for soul and funk searchers. This album feels like a typical funk groover driven by piano, sometimes electric piano, and smoother at times, but it has some really good hard driving blues and gospel grooves, some great guitar work as well. I like this cover too. Again, the fonts on this, the logos, I love all of them on mostly all of these records. The Rance Allen Group was probably the biggest artist on this imprint, and they released a third album on the label called Brothers that gets a lot more grand with strings and a lot more of a later 70s vibe. But this album is off to a great start with the set here, in my opinion. So this is a fantastic one to start with. Next, I went with this one because, again, I love this cover. All of the covers on these albums are great, like I was saying, but this one and the fonts and the colors, they just did an amazing job with this one, especially matching it with her dress here. All of these jackets, again, these are heavy, glossy, tip-on jackets, very premium. This is Louise McCord, a tribute to Mahalia Jackson. I'm not familiar at all with Mahalia Jackson, but this album is one that was reissued back in 1980. This one starts with a great groover that would be an immediate buy for me if I sampled this at a record store and found an old copy or something and listened to it just for the first track. I'm a pushover when it comes to groove music. If the first track is really good, I'll probably get it. This first track was done heavily with stacks and it shows. It then shifts over to like a more gospel feel that I was expecting for a lot of these records. Lots of great 6/8 slow grooves and her voice is just amazing. So this was a great number 2 and that's a third of the set here. So we're doing pretty well with 2 of these records already being pretty good. Now I should take a minute here and say this. I love 70s production, and I think that's what makes this more enjoyable for me. I'm not a fan of slick, over-compressed drums and bass and the stuff that you find in like newer contemporary gospel or really any newer recordings at all. And I know that these folks were just using what they had at the time, but it sounds great. So give me some 70s drums and bass and electric Fender Rhodes, and I'm almost always on board. So if you like that stuff, you're probably already gonna like this stuff as well. And also one other thing, definitely subscribe to the channel. Just go and hit the subscribe button right now. Just go ahead right now. Subscribe. Okay, Maceo Woods and the Christian Tabernacle Concert Choir. Jesus People. Another amazing gospel record. When you think of anything gospel, organ, amazing vocals, huge choirs, grooves, the fast, upbeat, boom chick, boom chick, boom chick that gets everybody off the floor. This record has all of this. This is a pure gospel record in my opinion. I don't have a ton of gospel music in my collection, but this is an authentic Southern gospel record and it's great. But I have filmed for Gospel on Independence the last couple of years in Philadelphia for the 4th of July, and this is exactly the type of stuff that would have been featured there. A huge choir with an amazing band with great artists and some great soloists. This record has all of that, so you're really going to enjoy it. All of these records are dead quiet too. Great pressings, even from GZ Vinyl. I know they get a lot of slack sometimes, but all of these records are dead flat and all of them were very quiet on my turntable. Next, we have Clarence Smith, Whatever Happened to Love. This one came out originally in 1973. Another great cover. Apparently, they didn't want him to be shirtless, and he insisted and just stood in this pose until they took the shot, which to me is kind of ballsy for a gospel record in 1973. But with the window panes here, makes you feel like you're in a church with the stained glass and all. But I had a feeling that this one had some gems on it, and I was not wrong. It turns out this is one of the only records on the imprint to use a Stax lineup of backing musicians and staffers and producers, and it really shows. There are some really visionary things going on with this record, and there are a lot of really good grooves as well. The song I Believe in Music is, I think, could come out of the realm of a gospel world here. It doesn't really say anything about religion or anything like that. It just says I believe in music, and the grooves on it are really, really good. They just jam out on that one. This is another one that you would find in a store and start previewing, and if you found that song, you would just get it. There are some string arrangements on here as well. There's great bass. Clearly a Fender jazz bass or a P bass is being used. Again, awesome 70s production, and of course the vocals. So you gotta hang in there at moments with this one, but the grooves are deep in the tracks, but they are definitely there. This is a good record. Another one that really surprised me, the Gospel Artistics, self-titled, originally came out in 1973. Now this cover and the look here, I feel like this is a record that you would find in a church library somewhere, but this isn't just a choir. To me, I thought this was a choir, but this is a band, and these guys are sick. This one was recorded in Maryland at the time and is a departure from a little bit of the traditional gospel roots and more in in line with stuff like Parliament or like funky guitar-driven stuff that was coming out at the time. This is the shortest record of the bunch with the most leftover dead wax, but really they could have jammed out more on some of these tunes in my opinion, because this is almost a rock record at times. And it's not that far off from the Rance Allen Group, but it's definitely not what the cover invokes here. And that's a great part of collecting vinyl. You imagine some kid in a church in the late 70s is in there and they put this on and bam, they just want to go out and start a band now with some fuzzy guitar or something like that. This group later reemerged after Stax and Gospel Truth folded as just the Artistics, so you might see them out there with just that name. Okay, so last in the box is Blue Aquarius, self-titled. Again, originally released in 1973, as most of these are. This is the only gatefold jacket of the bunch, and the jacket and cover art are just great, and I love the outer border of the record here, and all of these albums from Gospel Truth have an awesome version of the logo, which is really cool. But this is where you can never trust covers for vinyl. As I just said before, out in the wild, you would probably see this cover and compare this to previous covers and think, oh, well, this is probably one to get. If you compared this to one of the other ones, you'd probably think that this is, more in line for something that's not just gospel driven. And you'd be kind of right, because this record is weird, man. Like, this is a weird record.
Hairless pets. Weird.
And when you read about it in the booklet, it's because it's not even a gospel record. It's not even a gospel artist, or like in the traditional vein of like gospel Southern Christian artists. This is borderline a cult. This is like a group of people that were into like I don't know if it's a fringe religion or not, but this is weird. This is a 60-person band, and trying to listen to it, it sounds like 60 people playing, which is not a good thing.
I'm hearing more Aboriginal percussionists, and I want an army of didgeridoos. 50,000 didgeridoos.
I'm kind of shocked that this was on the imprint. And then when I did some searching on more Gospel Truth artists, there are quite a few other albums out there that they should have chosen, like Sons of Truth, A Message from the Ghetto, which is a really awesome album. Now that one did get reissued on 2017, so I'm going to go get that and pretend that it was part of this set, because honestly, I'll probably never listen to this record again.
And I just wanted to say to everyone out there, I'm no longer mainlining acid or smoking PCP.
And this leads to, should you buy this box set? Well, let's go over some of my thoughts on this. In case you're not aware, I love and I'm a huge fan of Daptone Records and the tree of artists and labels that they have stemmed from and that have stemmed off of them. And at the root, at the very core of Daptone Records is gospel music. Gabe Roth spent a lot of time with Cliff Driver, an organ legend in the gospel world. They toured the South and gospel churches, and I'm going to link to an amazing story that Gabe Roth told playing with Cliff Driver. Check that in the link in the description. It's fantastic. But it leads to funk and soul and all the great stuff that people love. And I could say this. Besides that Blue Aquarius record, every one of these has at least one extremely good treasure in it, in the vein of Stax music that is just awesome. I Believe in Music from Clarence Smith doesn't even mention God in the lyrics. It just says music the entire time, and the grooves are so hard, and it's just a straight funk tune from a bunch of Stax players, which is really awesome. It helps me connect more with these newer artists when I listen to stuff knowing that they're diving deep into these kinds of gospel worlds. If you like gospel music, you're gonna love this box set. If you're into soul or jazz or funk groove stuff, there's a lot of stuff to be found here. From a collector standpoint, this is a treasure. These records haven't been reissued before. The pressings and the jackets are extremely well done, and they probably will not do a repressing on this one ever again. It's a little too niche, but that also adds to the appeal, in my opinion. You're adding stuff to your collection that you normally wouldn't, which is exactly what Vinyl Me Please basically builds their business on. And I'm not disappointed. I would definitely recommend this to someone. Go take a deep dive into it, stream it online somewhere. I think if you like groove music, you're gonna see a lot of value here, and that is the truth. Okay, I've said enough. I'm gonna listen to some of these gospel records and chill, and I will see you guys on the next one. Okay, Maceo Woods and the Christian Tabernacle. Okay, Maceo Woods and the Christian Tabernacle. Okay, Maceo Woods and the Christian Tabernacle. Okay, Maceo Woods and the Christian Tabernacle
We're on a mission from God.
Tabernacle Concert Choir. Maceo Woods and the Christian Tabernacle